So more and more people progressively are trying to become content creators and grow their social media following, yet so many of them are presented with several challenges that so many times lead them to actually give it up. In my experience, the most frequently asked questions are: how do I find my niche? What equipment am I supposed to be using? How to actually make money out of social media? And how many times am I supposed to be posting in order to grow an account? So I thought that in today's video, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to actually kickstart your career as a content creator based on my experience on how I did it and also my professional knowledge. For context, I am actually a marketer specialized in social media, and I'm also a creator myself. I am active on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and I also run my own newsletter. In all of my platforms, I count for a total of a little over 90,000 people, and I built that audience more or less in the last 9 months. It is also important to specify that in all of those platforms, I started with either 0 following or a few people that were exclusively my family, my friends, and some random connections that I had. So I'm going to be kickstarting this video with one of the most hot questions, and that is: how do I find my niche, aka the things that I talk about or what my account is about? So my opinion on that is slightly controversial compared to what most people would advise you to do. But in my experience, what I'm about to tell you is what works the best. This is what I've seen on my clients, but also how I grew my personal platforms. And the answer to basically how do I find my niche is that essentially you don't. Let me explain. Unless you have something, a passion or something that you're knowledgeable about that consumes your entire being, then you don't need to have the theme of your account figured out at first. So what that basically means is that unless you love cooking and all you want to do all day long is cooking, which in that case your niche is cooking, then you don't need to spend a few weeks trying to figure out what it is that you're supposed to talk about, what is it that people want you to talk about, what is it that is possible, what's not possible, and all of that. Just forget about it completely, and that's for several reasons. So reason number one is that most niches can be combined. So if, for example, you are someone that loves fashion, but also loves makeup, but you also like your fitness journey and you love Pilates, for example, then you don't need to pick one of those things as your niche. You can post about all of these things, and the reason why you can do that is because think about yourself. Think about what you like to see when you consume content. Most likely, you are also a person that loves all those things. And maybe you follow some creators that do fashion, and you follow some creators that do makeup, and you follow some creators that are all about, wellness and mindfulness and all that stuff. So if you enjoy all of those things and you enjoy consuming content and all of those things, then chances are that you wouldn't mind consuming all of those things from one creator. At the same time, personally, but also what we see as a tendency, if I may say so, in social media, is that people can connect way more to creators that they feel like they know them better. And to know somebody better, you need to be able to see their life and their interests in a more spherical way, rather than seeing them an expert at like X thing, aka fashion or beauty or cooking. That being said, there is nothing wrong if you just have one thing that you love and that's just the one thing you're good about, because this can absolutely work and it can work fantastically. But if you're on the other side and you just have multiple interests, then that's perfectly fine. It works amazingly, and it gives people an opportunity to truly get to know you and connect to you on so many more levels compared to if you were just doing one of those things. The second reason why you don't need to spend a week scratching your head to find your niche is that if you are someone who is lucky enough to be enjoying multiple things or be very talented in multiple things, then you have the opportunity to put all of those things out there in the public and let the audience choose which one of those things is it that interests them the most. Like businesses, successful creator careers are built when creators are answering the problems and the needs of their consumers, or when they can inspire their consumers or their audience in a way that resonates to them and it is actually relatable. So instead of just trying to figure out what you should do and what you would like and what you should turn the question and just let the audience decide. So to sum up this whole niche question, here are your next steps that you're going to be following in order to find your niche. You're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to write down everything that you're super passionate about, or the things that you're super knowledgeable about. Forget about what's trending. Forget about what people are telling you is going to work so well. Forget about what you think you should be doing. You can only do something successfully and sustainably for a very long time if you are super passionate about it or you're super knowledgeable about it. So you're gonna make that list, write everything down, and for the next 3 months, you are going to be posting about all of those things non-stop in alterations. After you've done that for 3 months, then you're gonna take a break. Not a break posting, but you're going to take all of that content that you posted and you're going to look at the data. So basically, you're going to look which of those things performed better, what made people more engaged, which category, which theme, or multiple themes. In case that you have multiple things, my personal advice would be to stick to 3 different niches, like the ones that perform better. For example, makeup, fashion, plus wellness journey. And if it's just one thing that performed amazingly, then that's totally fine. You can just go without one thing. And there you have it. That's how you find your niche. So now that you have your niche figured out, next question to address is how to get people to consume your content specifically in platforms that have so many creators and there is so much competition, and also how to go viral. So now I know this is a very controversial thing, and I know there's a lot of creators or like coaches or marketers out there that are going to say, well, virality isn't everything. And while I do agree with the statement, I also need to say that in the beginning, going viral, or like in the early stages, getting a piece of content that goes viral can be extremely beneficial for the simple reason that it gets your account in front of so many people, and that can only be beneficial for the most part. Once you have a little bit of an audience base, then I definitely suggest that you need to like shift your mindset and not go for virality, but more of like content that nurtures also the people that you already have in your community. Because if you only post content that just appeals to people who are not part of your account yet, and is more of like clickbaity sort of content that just gets other people to be interested in your account, then you're going to lose the people that you already have, or you're not going to have a good engagement, you're not going to have a strong community, and that's not something that we want. But we're going to address that later. For the time being, let's talk virality. So my advice on how to go viral can be boiled down to 2 things. Number 1 is your unfair advantage, and number 2 is being controversial. So I'm going to explain both of those things in detail, starting with number 1, and that is your unfair advantage. So what basically that refers to is identifying the things that you have that other people don't have, and therefore you can use that in order to attract an audience. Now, most people, when they're told that you need to find your unfair advantage, they just straight, just come up with the answer, oh, but I don't have any. But I promise you, everyone has an unfair advantage. You just don't necessarily know how to identify it. So I'm going to give you some examples in order to like prompt you to think about what is your unfair advantage. So for example, if you're someone who is pretty or like good looking, then harsh truth, but it is an unfair advantage because it has a stop scrolling effect. Like people like pretty people, I guess. So they're interested to see what is it that they have to say. You can be someone that has an ethnicity, color, or race that is different to majority of people, or like you belong to a very specific group, And therefore, that allows you to have a community that is super engaged because they're interested in your personal insight. For example, if you are doing makeup and you are a Black creator, then that is an unfair advantage, because when you are reviewing beauty products, then your word has way more gravity and influence compared to a white creator reviewing that product. You know what I'm saying? There are also other like unfair advantages that are like way simpler. For example, you have a very cute pet. You have been to a lot of countries. You have had adventures or like experiences that most people didn't have. You work at a company that a lot of people want to work at this company. You have a very like strong experience in like picking things from like thrift stores. You are someone that moved out of the country. You speak multiple languages, or like you recently took on learning, I don't know, Mandarin or Russian or Arabic. All of those things are very simple, but they're all unfair advantages. Believe me when I'm telling you, you do have one or more unfair advantages and you need to be using all of them. How do you use your unfair advantage, you're asking? Well, I have the answer for you. And that answer is basically that you have to filter your niche and all your content through your unfair advantages. So how do you do that? Translation. The makeup example that I used earlier is a very good example of how do you filter your niche through your unfair advantage. I'm also going to explain to you how I personally did it on my accounts. So my biggest unfair advantages was, number one, that I had a lifestyle that a lot of people either want to have or they're curious about. For example, doing like Michelin star restaurants, or going to very famous hotels, or like owning certain like designer items, or just items in general, like fashion or like beauty or clothes and all that, that a lot of people want to see what is it like. So that was like my unfair advantage number one. And then my second and like strongest one was actually my relationship. So the fact that I'm in a very healthy, happy, and somewhat traditional relationship also was my unfair advantage, because so many women resonated with that and they felt like they would also want to have a relationship that is like mine. So it attracted my ideal audience. How I used those unfair advantages to filter my content, which is basically lifestyle, beauty, and fashion. So if I wanted to do a fashion video and I wanted to do an OOTD, instead of just showing what it is that I am wearing, I would try to do a couple OOTD, because I knew the people were interested in my relationship. Similarly, if I was doing a video where I was just showing, let's say, a day in my life, or a nighttime routine, or like morning routine, I also knew that people would be engaged because they genuinely enjoy my lifestyle, let's say, or the activities that I'm doing during the day. So I knew that for my audience, this would be engaging, because that's how I filter all of my content, through my unfair advantage. But to give you like a little bit more like generic examples, if for example, your unfair advantage is that you moved out of your country and you are, let's say, a student in London, you could do a video if your niche, for example, is lifestyle or like general like life updates or like student life. You could do a video and say POV, the 10 best cafes in London for international students. Or if you just moved out of your country and you were somewhere, I don't know, random, you could do, for example, like best places to visit as an expat in Austria or wherever it is that you are. But that's just an example to say that you can filter anything through your unfair advantage. You just need a little bit, either like a word hook that gets people to relate to your experience and your unfair advantage, or you just need like the aesthetic or what it is that you are showing to be filtered through your unfair advantage. And that's basically how you get people to want to consume your content. So as I mentioned before, there is a second way and a second tip that you definitely need to use when you are striving for virality, and that is being controversial. Now, I'm not encouraging you to be controversial for the sake of controversy, But in reality, we all have opinions about anything and everything. And a lot of our opinions are not necessarily conventional. So you need to be using those opinions in order to get people to engage with your content. Why does controversy work? Because when you're expressing an opinion that somehow, like pushes the buttons of people feel so compelled to give their opinion, to just comment, either to say, yay, like you just read through my soul and like this is so relatable and oh my God, for real, and all that kind of stuff. Or it's just people just get so annoyed and like even offended sometimes, even though I'm not saying say things that are offending. But, everyone has their own insecurities, their own thoughts about things. And every time you just say something that doesn't somehow match their narrative, it just compels people to engage with your content and just tell you how much they agree or they disagree with your opinions. And so more engagement, more comments means that the algorithms keep pushing that video on the For You page or the Explore page. And so the more this gets pushed out, then eventually it reaches virality. And now I'm pretty sure that after explaining you this, you might be thinking, okay, but I don't have any controversial opinions. So I'm about to take down that objection and give you some examples that hopefully can help you go into a soul-searching experience of finding what are your controversial opinions about life and your niche. Anyways, so let me give you some examples. If you are, for example, in the beauty niche and you are trying to make a video and you show like your beauty routine, the sole fact of where are you supposed to apply your blush can be controversial. So instead of like just showing how do you do your makeup and all that, you can do your makeup and do a POV and say, POV, if you apply your blush closer to your nose, that makes you look chubbier. And then you proceed by demonstrating how you personally apply the blush like closer to your eye. And so that simple thing can be controversial because people then go in the comments and say, oh my God, thank you for this, like this is so for real. Or there's other people that are going to go in the comments and say, no, this is not accurate because if you have a face shape that is like XYZ, then this doesn't actually work and blah, blah, blah. I hope like you're getting a bit the idea here. Similarly, if you, for example, in the diet niche space and you have some sort of like controversial opinions about specific foods that generally people perceive them as like bad, or they think that if they consume those foods then they can never lose weight. If, for example, you do a video, what your goal is basically to explain to people that in order to lose weight they need to be on a calorie deficit. So if you try to start your video by saying that, I promise you nobody cares because it's not controversial enough to make people like stop scrolling and be like, what? So what you could do instead, you could be like, POV, you can eat chocolate every single day and still lose weight. So the reason why that is controversial is because people, when they're thinking like of a weight loss journey, they're not necessarily thinking that they're going to be eating chocolate every single day. But technically, you can eat chocolate every single day as long as you remain in a calorie deficit. You would still be losing weight. So if that's your goal, then you just use that sort of controversy to get people to listen to you, and then you offer value and you explain how losing weight actually works. Another example, if you are on the fashion niche and you want to show people, for example, fashion like outfits that they could wear at the office, instead of saying 10 outfits you could wear at your corporate job, you can do a way more like controversial or sort of like hooking video or like intro by saying, people, your corporate job is not a fashion show. And then that lasts like 3 or 4 seconds. And then you proceed by saying, me, yes, it is. And you just start working in with different outfits that are super nice. They're very different. They're still appropriate for like your corporate job, but they're not like, the typical boring thing that you would normally see people wearing. They're like more of like fashion-ish sort of outfits. And that way you still show what you want to show, but you're being controversial. You're using a hook that makes people stop scrolling because they sort of like relate or they identify with the statement in a very strong sentimental way. To my previous advice about how to identify viral content formulas, another thing that you need to keep in mind, and a very common mistake, is that a lot of people try an idea once, and then if it doesn't perform well, then they abandon it because they feel like, oh, this is never going to go viral. But this is not how technically the algorithms work. So let me explain this to you. The algorithms, for the most part, they need a little bit of time to pick up content or to pick up the content of a specific creator. So if, for example, you do a POV, which is POV outfits, like corporate outfits straight out of the runway, and you do that video and that video doesn't perform very well, this is not your sign to not redo the video, for the love of God. This is your sign to keep doing that video for the next 90 days. And I don't mean do it every single day, but like for the next 90 days, post it at least once a week and keep tweaking it just a little bit. So for example, you can do a faster transition between the hook and the body, or you can do, you know, like tweaking a little bit the wording or changing a little bit the background, going to a more aesthetic, let's say, part of your house or something like that. But the main idea should remain as it is. Once you see that some content formulas are picking up, and by picking up, I don't mean that you need to generate 1 million views, but that some content formulas are performing significantly better than the average amount of engagement, views, follows, so on and so forth that you normally get, then this is how you know that you need to take this content idea, take this content formula, and keep tweaking it and redoing it for literally the rest of life. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, this can't be true and all of that. And we're so conditioned to think that we need to be finding, you know, amazing content ideas every single week, every single day in order to remain relevant. But that isn't true. Like, you need to be doing things in batches, you need to be doing things in series, and you need to keep doing them again and again and again, because people love to see things that are familiar and things that they relate to. And if somebody related to something before, chances are that they're going to keep relating to it for a very long time to come. Personally, I generate approximately 3 million views every single month, and I use the same content formulas, the same content ideas. Sometimes I even use the same visuals slightly tweaked, and the videos are still performing, people still engage, and my audience still loves the content. So this is your proof that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to identify what is it that works for you, your niche, and your audience. The next question that is very, very frequently asked is, what equipment do I need in order to make quality content, and where should I edit all my content, and all that kind of technical stuff. So starting from the equipment, honestly, you don't need anything fancy in terms of like cameras and all of that. I personally think that there is way more value in investing in skills, for example, like editing skills and knowing how to edit your video, compared to like buying a very expensive camera. And if you want to really, if you can invest in equipment, then the first thing that I would recommend for you to buy is just lights, because that can make an enormous difference in a video. And it's not a big investment. You can find a lot of affordable options. So you don't need anything. You can just use your smartphone. You might never need to have professional equipment, so just don't bother about all of that. In terms of like editing, then you have multiple options. I think different creators use different things. Personally, I edit all of my short form videos on CapCut, and then I use Adobe Lightroom to do all of my photos. I retouch the lighting or the colors and all that kind of jazz. So these are the platforms that I use for my short form editing. And then for my YouTube, to be honest, I do use professional equipment for my YouTube videos, but that is because I already have the equipment for my professional life. So if I didn't, I would just start with my iPhone, and I would only invest in microphones and lighting in case you're doing a lot of talking videos. So for my YouTube videos, I'm using a Canon 90D with a Sigma lens of 15 to 35 millimeters. I'm using the DJI small microphones, and then I'm also using 1 or 2 softbox lights, depending on the natural sunlight that is available the day that I am shooting. I'm not sure if I already mentioned that, but I also edit all of my YouTube videos still on CapCut. I do have the Pro version because I do use use a lot of the features for my YouTube videos, but you can also definitely use the free version if you cannot afford it right now. Other amazing options for YouTube editing is Final Cut Pro. And then if you want to also add music to your videos, for example, if you're doing vlogs or like a little bit of music in the intro and the outro, you can also use Epidemic Sound, which is truly amazing for YouTube. I definitely recommend it. But just to sum it up, don't focus so much on like equipment, what you have and what you don't have, because at the moment you don't need anything. Just start with what you have. Start with your smartphone, and then you're going to figure out the rest when you actually start making revenue and profit from your social media. You don't need to invest in anything at the moment other than improving your editing skills, because that can make an enormous difference, whether it's on video or in photos. Next question is, how often am I supposed to be posting in order to grow a following? So there is also a lot of opinions out there on how much you're supposed to be posting, quality over quantity, quantity over quality, and all of that. But I'm just going to share with you my experience from my own account and from my clients' accounts. So in my opinion, you need to be posting every single day or 6 times a week. And then if you're doing 6 times a week, then the only day that I would suggest that you take a break, that will be Friday, because on Fridays, engagement in all of the platforms is significantly lower. So you can easily get away with that. But other than that, especially if you are in the growth phase, I suggest posting video reels or like TikToks, obviously, every single day. So that being said, when you do have a little bit of a followers base, then you can obviously start posting like 1 carousel or 2 carousels a week, or like 1 carousel and then 1 static post. But if you really want to see growth and you want to see results, then I definitely recommend going solely with reels in the beginning, because you want to be exposed to like new audiences, and that can only happen through video for the most part. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Then the second thing that you absolutely want to consider is that even when you post a lot of videos, you post every single day, you stay consistent, you need to stay consistent for a considerable amount of time before you actually see any results. And I'm telling you this because when I sort of started as a creator, even though I had a lot of knowledge from like my clients and let's say my marketing career, I still was like, I was trying to see like how long it took other creators to like blow up or start having a little bit of following. And that I would say really differs for most people. But on an average, if I could, like put it a little bit numerically, I would say you need to be posting consistently every single day, very good quality content for at least 6 to 8 months before you see any sort of change in your account. Personally, I was posting every single day, quality content, videos for 6 months, and nothing was working. When I'm telling you, my account wasn't even like changing by a little bit, it would be like, I don't know, 10 followers a month or something like that, which is crazy. So that was the reality. And then after 6 months of all of this posting, all of this effort, then my account literally blew up in 1 week. And I gained in that week 10,000 followers. And then it just kept going up and up and up. And all of my videos were getting crazy engagement. And now I have managed to maintain that sort of momentum and my account keeps growing. But all of that just to say, don't be discouraged if you are posting for like 1, 2, 3, 4 months and you're not seeing any change, because it is very nerve-wracking, I know, but it is the price to pay for the gains that you're going to have later on. And I left the hottest question for last because that's just my engagement tricks. Just kidding. But a lot of people want to know how to actually monetize your social media, aka how to make money out of being a creator. And the answer to that is in so many ways, but in reality it's not as easy as a lot of people like to make it look on the internet. And I'm going to give you all of the options, the entire spectrum, so you can understand how it works. So there are multiple ways in which you can monetize your social media. Some of those ways are being a UGC creator, having affiliate links, having digital products, brand deals, and also getting organically paid by the platforms. Now, UGC, for example, you don't necessarily need much of an audience base, even though it is good to have, but all you're going to need is basically video producing and video editing skills, not very advanced ones, but the better you are, the better for the client. And then you're going to need a little bit of a portfolio, and preferably it would be great if you're also comfortable being in front of the camera, as the idea of UGC is like creating user-generated content, or otherwise like more natural presentations of reactions in products compared to, I don't know, a cinematography sort of video. So for that, if you don't have clients already, in order to make a portfolio, you can do videos with products that you have in your house. You just take those products and you sort of like create videos where you present and advertise the product, or you show your experience with the product, and then you create a portfolio. You send it to people, you send it to brands, and this is how you sort of like start getting your first clients. Pitching. The second way you could be making money is affiliate links. So affiliate links are great for creators that demonstrate a lot of products. For example, if you're in the fashion niche or in the beauty niche, and every single day you're showing outfits or you're showing different makeup looks, and those makeup looks have a lot of products and all that, you can link all of your products in platforms like to Know It or Shop My. There are several affiliate platforms out there, or like even Amazon affiliate program. If you have, for example, if you're doing interior design and you're showing a lot of products from Amazon and so on and so forth, you can link all of those products. But the problem is that, especially if you are in the beginning and you don't have a huge following count, then chances are you're not going to be making an enormous amount of money, because the way affiliate links work is that every time somebody buys using one of your links, then you get a small portion of that money. But obviously, if you don't have a lot of followers, it's like difficult to make, let's say, sustainable income from affiliate links. The next way you could be making money is digital products, and that could be either courses or like ebooks, or like, for example, if you're in Notion, you could be selling like Notion templates, or your budgeting template, or anything that basically is digital and can help somebody else either do something or learn something. I do feel like digital products are a thin line, in the sense that in the beginning it was amazing. Now I feel like everybody does something related to digital products, and it can be amazing, but as long as you do something that you do it, that it's not something that ChatGPT just drafted up in like, I don't know, a few seconds and you're trying to sell it to people. It also has to be something that is directly connected to your audience, so that it answers specifically the questions and concerns of your audience. And it has to be something that is so packed with value, because otherwise you don't get good reviews. People don't like the product, they don't recommend it. And so it can be a very like short, let's say, cycle of sales. I personally do have a digital product, which by the way, you can find it linked in the description box. For me, it worked great because I actually did write the guide, and it was also something that responded directly to a lot of questions that my audience had. So it worked great, but definitely just be a little bit cautious with that. Don't do a digital product just for the sake of doing it, unless you have a big amount of value to offer to the people you're selling the product to. The next thing that you could be making money of is basically the platforms. So platforms like TikTok and YouTube, they pay you organically. The problem with TikTok, like the TikTok partnership program, is that it is not available to everyone. So that's a bummer. It's not available where I am, so I'm not making any money off of my social media accounts, at least Instagram and TikTok. But something that is available to everyone worldwide and you can make money is the YouTube remuneration, or like partnership program. Now, obviously for YouTube, it takes a lot more to actually reach a point where you can get monetized and you can make money. But I would also say that YouTube is the only platform that can consistently produce leave your 9-to-5 job kind of money. I don't have specific insights on numbers to give you because my YouTube is not yet monetized. But this is just industry insight and what I've also seen with my clients. And that is a very good opportunity for me to remind you to please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, like the video, and also send it to one of your friends if you feel like this could be beneficial. This way you will be helping someone you love, and you will also be helping me get one step closer to becoming a full-time YouTuber. And I saved the most complicated one for last, and that is brand deals. Now, it is no secret that brand deals is actually the big money when it comes to any social media platform, like it or not. But to be honest, there's so many criteria that comes with it. And I'm going to start by explaining all those criteria. In my opinion, and what I've seen again from industry insights, from 2024 onwards, the sweet spot for like brands to actually approach you and want to collaborate with you is close to 100,000 followers. Now, that can significantly change depending on the country that you live. For example, in Switzerland is way lower because there are not that many influencers to begin with. Or in my country of origin, Greece, it is also quite lower because the situation is pretty much the same. But overall, I would say if you're in the US, the UK, Paris, Germany, and all that, I would say you need to be looking at 100K followers in order to start having like brands pitching you to collaborate with you. And that alone is not enough. So it's very important that you have a very engaged community, because a followers count without a community that actually cares about what is it that you have to say isn't very, like lucrative for a brand, because they pay you to advertise the product. But if the people you're talking to don't care about what is it that you have to say or like your opinion on the product, then you're not going to make much of a publicity or like sales for the brand. So they're not going to want to work with you. The second thing that you need to consider is also market share. So depending on where you live, what type of language you use in your videos, and also your demographic, like your audience, where is it that they come from? This can also significantly impact whether brands want to work with you and how much they're willing to pay you when they're doing collaborative posts with you. The second thing that you need to consider on top of everything else is overall the aesthetic of your account and also your niche. So if you want to get partnerships in the beauty niche, then your account, the entire account, or at least part of it, should be about beauty. And that way a brand can be like, okay, you also have people that are interested in beauty, you do beauty videos, so let's collaborate. And as I mentioned, aesthetics are also important, because if your account is like all over the place and it's like whatever, it is more difficult for brands to want to collaborate with you, because if they do connect their name with your name, then they have some standards of like corporate image or like brand image that they need to like keep them as they are. So your aesthetic should be, I would say, above average, like the overall feed, the quality of your content, what is it that you're posting, and so on and so forth. And I know that you might be listening to me right now and be like, oh my God, this is so many things to achieve, so many things to consider. I'm never gonna make it. I'm never gonna reach 100 followers. I'm never gonna get brand deals and all of that. And I'm gonna stop you right there, because this is not true. The reason why I'm telling you all that is because I want you to have a realistic idea of what it actually is like, so you don't get disappointed when you're having, 10,000 followers, and maybe you don't have brands that want to work with you. Maybe you do, that's also a possibility, but I just want you to be strategic and methodical about it, and not just sentimental about your creator career. Which brings me to action plan. So I need you to begin with dropping certain unrealistic ideas about becoming a content creator. And the first unrealistic idea is that you're going to be that exception of a person or a creator that's going to become a TikTok or an Instagram millionaire in the next month. You might be that 0.00001% sort of exception, but most likely you won't be. And that's not because you're not good enough. It's just the reality of things. So I need you to drop this kind of like idea, expectation, or like secret wish that this actually might happen to you. You need to see this as a business, and you need to see this as a very long-term project. Second unrealistic idea that I need you to get out of your head is that you can stay in your room and like be amazing, and then brands are gonna come to you and they're gonna want to work with you and do stuff with you just because you have great content. It doesn't work like that. You need to get out there and show people the good work that you can actually do and the impact of your work. So start by creating your media kit. On your media kit, present yourself, show the data of your account, your demographics, your performance, include pieces of your work, and include also feedback either from other brands that you have worked with before or from your audience, and pitch brands every single day consistently for way too long in order to start getting opportunities. And when I say pitch enough, I mean you need to be pitching at least 10 to 20 brands every single day. I know that sounds like a lot. I also know that when you're gonna get no's, because I'm telling you, you're gonna get so many rejections, it hurts. I mean, I still cry sometimes, but oh well, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I promise you, it's also worth it, and it's all part of the game. It's all part of the plan. You just need to get yourself out there, and you need to show people what is it that you're capable of doing. And please know that a no is a no now. It's not a no forever, you know. I've had brands that I have pitched them when I had like 3,000 followers or like 4,000 followers, and they told me no. And then when I hit like 25 followers, I think, then they pitched me and they were like, oh, we would love to collaborate. Would you like to do this, and that? So don't take no personally, and don't think it's forever. It's just for now. Keep pitching brands. I promise you, eventually, if you pitch enough people, you will find people that want to collaborate with you and work with you. Because while luck doesn't favor everyone, volume favors everyone, with absolutely no exception. Your entire approach towards this should be purely statistical and not sentimental at all. And this advice is coming from a person that is extremely sentimental. You need to be saying to yourself that you're going to do so much for so long that it is statistically impossible for you to not succeed. Another very important thing that I definitely suggest, and I think that also helped me a lot, is to not take on all the platforms all at once. Because if you're trying to succeed in like 4 platforms at the same time, you're going to get lost, overwhelmed, overworked, and just disappointed. And we don't want to do that. Personally, I started with TikTok, and the reason why I started with TikTok is because you want to identify at the time when you're starting your creator journey, which platforms has the most underpriced attention. So that is sort of like a term that was invented by Gary Vee, but what it refers to is basically finding the platform that has more demand than supply. Well, realistically, all of the platforms right now have a lot of supply. But at the time, for example, for me, TikTok was a very good option. Another option right now that has a lot of underpriced attention would definitely be Snapchat. So you need to make a little bit your research about your niche, your audience, what is it that you want to be showing, and choose the platform with the most underpriced attention. And by the way, that's not Instagram. Instagram is one of the hardest platforms to succeed. I also think it's one of the most rewarding platforms to succeed, with YouTube as well. But in general, do your research and start with a platform that is a little bit easier. As I said, I personally started with TikTok. I created a very solid followers base. Then I moved on to Instagram, created a very solid followers base. And then I started with YouTube a few months ago. 2.5 months ago to be exact. And so if you subscribe to my channel, you're going to be helping me to also build a very solid followers base here as well. And I would absolutely love that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you did find it useful. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. I replied to all of my comments, so do not hesitate. And if you have more questions, or if you also have more tips from your own journey or somebody you know, then feel free to leave them on the comment section. This way we can all help each other and learn from each other. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video.